Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about an issue which I find really interesting and very important, and that is the proposal to abolish the Senate. This is my reasoning and my proposal. This hasn't actually been proposed. Actually, it has been. Once in the early 1900s, the Senate tried to pass an amendment to get rid of the Senate. It didn't work because you can't convince 100 people to give up their jobs like that. Anyway, so this is my idea here that I was thinking about, and my reasoning is as follows. So why should we get rid of the Senate? Well, first, a little bit of history of the Senate. The Senate was created with the New Jersey Plan, which was a plan introduced in the not the Continental Congress, but the Constitutional Convention, by William Paterson from New Jersey. Hence why it's called the New Jersey Plan. What this aimed to do is create a legislative body, which had one representative per state, so that it wasn't representative of populations. Here, it says it right here. Its most significant proposal called for equal representation for states and a unicameral legislature in order to avoid awarding states with larger populations, such as New York and Virginia, a greater number of representatives and therefore greater share of the power. So this guy did not like the fact that some people would have more power than his little state of New Jersey. So he proposed the New Jersey Plan. Now, the New Jersey Plan failed. New Jersey Plan, of course, failed because the Constitutional Convention didn't want it. And they voted instead for James Madison's Virginia Plan. And this created a bicameral legislature, so two bodies, which both were proportional to population, and represented the number of people accurately. So this William Paterson did not like this whatsoever. If we go down here, the compromise followed heated debates with several states' representatives threatening to leave the convention altogether. So this guy didn't get his way, so he threatened to leave the convention. So what happened? They ended up with the Connecticut Compromise, which created a bicameral legislature, which had, this is the Great Compromise, which had one house, which was representative of the people, and one which was representative of the states, which is our modern system that we have now. And the reason we did that is to appease these small state people who wanted to have some power in the political fray. And we needed to do that, arguably, to keep the country together because they, as you can see, threatened to leave the Constitutional Convention altogether. In modern day, this is reason number one, this is unnecessary. There is no threat of states like New Jersey or any states like that leaving the Union. The United States military is powerful enough now to keep them in, as we saw during the Civil War. So this whole reason for having the Senate originally is now unnecessary in the modern day. To my second point here, I want to just talk about what the Senate actually does and why it is so unfair. Now, many people know this, but this is just for everyone. California has a population of 39 million people. We'll just round up because it's 39.66, so we're going to round up to 40 million people. Population 40 million people. More people live in California than live in Canada. More people live in California than the entire fucking country of Canada. No other state does that. Anyway, that's California. How many senators do they have? They have two. They have two senators. Now let's go to the least populous state, Wyoming. Wyoming has a population of 590,000 people. A lot of people, but nowhere near that. How many senators do they have? Two. So this state, Wyoming, representative of 500, we'll round it up to 600,000 people, has the same population, or the same representation rather, of a state with 40 million people. And I just wanted to show the actual numerical disparity between the two with a calculator here. So one person, one senator from California represents this number of people that I'm about to put in. So that is 4 million. This is 40 million. 40 million people. Divide that by 2. You got 20. Obviously. That's pretty simple. You got 20 million people. Representing 20 million people. On the other hand, Wyoming, with 600,000, one senator is representative of 300,000 people. This makes it so that if you divide 40 million, is that 40 million? Hold on, this is hard to do on this. Okay, one more. 40 million, and you divide that by the number of people who live in Wyoming. Shit, I did it the wrong way. Hold on. Did I? No. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I did not. I did not. All right. I'm using the top up here. This is annoying. I gotta count all the zeros. Okay, yeah, so that's 40 million people. Yeah, so 40 million people, and then 600,000 people. Yeah, so that equals 66.6666, blah, blah, blah. You get the point. Wyoming has 66 times the voting power of California. So much for one person, one vote. 66 times the voting power. 66 times. One person in California equals 1 person in Wyoming equals 66 people in California. That is ridiculous. And in a democracy, which is what we are, we vote for things ourselves, and we do vote for representatives, which would make us a republic, but we're a democratic republic because we also vote directly on some measures. And the process of voting for representatives is a democracy. In a democracy, this cannot stand. Can't stand. 66 times the voting power. Ridiculous. So that's reason number 2, kind of exemplified with the math here. And then the third reason is this. The Senate is notoriously called where bills is the place where bills go to die. That's what the Senate is referred to as. Because the House passes bills, sends it to the Senate, gets stuck in the Senate because of the unequal representation, and then the bills die. And this pie chart exemplifies that too. So this is the fate of the 115th House bills reaching the Senate. So all of the House bills which reached the Senate in the 115th Congress, this is the amount that passed, didn't pass, blah, blah, blah. So 56% died in the Senate. 56% died. Along with 3% that died in committee and 5% which died on the floor. So in total, that is 64% of all the bills which were sent to the Senate died in the Senate, and they stayed there. They died. That's it. On top of this, around 30%, or 33%, 36%, I believe, they actually ended up passing. So 66% of the laws which we could have don't pass. They don't pass. And this becomes an issue with these bills, which I'm about to show you. So the first one, the really important one. So what bills are actually affected by this? Right? If 66% die, well, maybe they're just bad bills. Well, here's some of the ones that didn't pass the Senate. Number 1, H.R. 1, the For the People Act, which was introduced when Biden was president. And before that, but was considered when Biden was president. So what does this bill do? It must be bad if it failed, right? That's what the Senate is for. Well, here's what it does. Improves access to voting rights. Expands access to the ballot box by taking aim at key institutional barriers to voting, such as burdensome registration systems, limited voting hours, and many other roadblocks. H.R. 1 creates automatic voter registration across the country, ensures that individuals who have completed felony sentences have their full rights restored, and expand voting by mail and early voting, and modernizes the U.S. voting system. This is very important, especially felony sentences, rather. This is important in Virginia. Virginia is one of 3 states in the Union, if I'm not mistaken, which still prevents felons from voting. even after they've completed their sentences. I believe it's about 200, 300,000 people that this affects that are not allowed to vote just because they've committed a felony and they've already done their sentence. This would get rid of that. On top of that, automatic voter registration. Automatic voter registration. I saw one statistic. I don't know if it's in this article, but I saw it. And it said that this would automatic voter registration in every state. Only 19 states have it right now. 19 states in the District of Columbia. In all 50 states, this could register more than 50 million people to vote automatically. That is massive. Another one, promote integrity. I'm surprised the Republicans didn't vote for this one. Fights back against Republicans' assault on voting rights by committing Congress to restore the Voting Rights Act, which is good. The Supreme Court has been trying to stop that. Prohibiting voter roll purges, which happened at the 2024 election, like seen in Ohio, Georgia, and elsewhere, and Texas. Ensure that discriminatory voter ID laws do not prevent American citizens from exercising their right to vote. H.R. 1 also ends partisan gerrymandering to prevent politicians from picking their voters and letting American voters instead choose their elected officials. Ends gerrymandering casually. That's just one part of this bill. It ends gerrymandering. For those of you who don't know, gerrymandering is the unfair practice of redistricting so that it benefits, as it says, so prevent politicians from picking their voters, right? Gerrymandering allows politicians to pick basically who their voters are and who, is more likely to win an election. And of course, they do it. This would make a independent commission decide the districts so that they no longer do it and have, because that's a conflict of interest. Promises the American elections to be decided by American voters without interference from foreign entities. This bill enhances federal support for voting system security, partial paper ballots, particularly paper ballots, and increases oversight over election vendors. So it's also about election security. Republicans voted it down. Remember this. And this is big too. Campaign finance. Guaranteed disclosure. H.R. 1 shines a light on dark money in politics by requiring any organization involved in a political activity to disclose its large donors, which will break the nesting doll system that allows big money contributors and special interests to hide their spending in networks of so-called social welfare organizations. It also levels the political playing field for everyday Americans, empowering individuals with multiple matchmaking systems for small donations. So basically, it matches the amount of money that somebody like me, if I donate $20, it would match it and multiply it so that small dollar donors can actually compete with big dollar donors so that the people's voices are heard and not just the wealthy elite. That's also what it did. So this bill was, really key. Really, really key for our modern election system, and it was voted down by the Senate. Senate Republicans blocked Dems' sweeping elections and reform bill. And this actually isn't fair because it's not the Republicans. It was Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. They voted. It was 50-50. The Senate Republicans blocked Democrats' sweeping elections and ethics reform bill on Tuesday, renewing calls for progressives to nix the legislative filibuster. So the Republicans refused to get rid of the filibuster, or the Democrats refused to get rid of the filibuster. It failed. So this bill failed in the Senate. This sweeping reform bill, would have been amazing for the United States of America. Regardless of whether you're Democrat or Republican, not only does it have voter security, but it also expands voting rights. It also takes on the corrupt campaign finance system that we have. And then finally, another bill here, which would have passed that didn't, is Build Back Better. So what does Build Back Better do? Negotiating lower drug costs for seniors. That's what it would have done. Ensuring Americans with diabetes don't pay more than $35 a month. Creating new out-of-pocket $2,000 cap on what seniors pay for drugs. There's more down here. Expand the basic promise of free schooling in America for the first time in 100 years with universal preschool for 3 to 4-year-olds. Universal pre-K. Establishes a universal and permanent paid family and medical leave program, providing 4 weeks of paid parental family caregiving and medical leave, which is actually relatively small on the global scale, but that's something. We have no paid leave. 4 weeks is pretty good. Give 35 million families a major tax cut. expands access to high-quality home care for older adults with disabilities, cuts costs post-secondary education. Um, Build Back Better is the largest effort to combat climate change in American history, investing $550 billion over 10 years. This was partially implemented into the Inflation Reduction Act, as was the $35 per month on insulin. Green tax credits will save the average American economy hundreds of dollars per year in energy costs. So this would do a lot of amazing things. Build Back Better. This was a huge part of Biden's agenda, the part of Biden's agenda, and it failed. Why did it fail? Joe Manchin kills Build Back Better bill. Same reason, filibuster. Um, yeah. So these two bills here, Build Back Better and the Voting Rights for the People Act, both would have passed had it not been for the Senate. And yet, the Senate voted them down. This is why we need to get rid of the Senate. So basically, just to kind of wrap things up and re-explain, the reason that we must get rid of the Senate is for 3 reasons. Number 1, it's outdated. The purpose of the Senate was to keep the country together. We are together, and we can't continue to keep ourselves together without the Senate. Number 2, it's unfair. As I mentioned, California has way larger population, same representation as Wyoming, which is an infinitely smaller population, 66 times smaller than California. And then finally, because the Senate is where bills go to die, it kills a lot of good pieces of legislation that the American people could use. So anyway, that's my little spiel on why we need to get rid of the Senate. Yeah, so if you like this type of content, make sure to like and subscribe.